He was shot minutes before he walked in the door, which is scary. What would have happened if we were there?
A vicious murder.
It was obvious whoever wanted to kill him was very angry because they probably could have shot him one or twice, but they had emptied their magazine into him.
A dark mystery with multiple suspects.
You know, they just didn't get along. They were fighting all the time.
Maybe an argument took place. Maybe there was disagreement took place.
Said, you know, hey, what are you looking at? You're staring at me. And he pulled out a gun.
The truth will be revealed.
We know that that last phone call actually came from after John was already found dead. So I think that phone call came from the guy that killed him.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. Sylvania Township, a quaint, close-knit town bordering Toledo, Ohio.
People are happy out here. In Christmas time, the neighborhoods are all lit up. You could tell the festivities for the holidays are coming around. Every neighborhood tries to outdo the next neighborhood.
We've always been fairly lucky. We haven't had that many homicides. Probably the majority of calls that we get are domestic violences, and we get a lot of burglary calls.
But on a quiet afternoon, just 10 days before Christmas, two young girls make a grisly discovery.
I was 13, and my sister Nicole was 12. We were both in the same school at the time. We were the last kids off the bus, and we got home, our dad's car's in the driveway. I thought, I forgot my keys in the house, and thank God Dad's home. So we try to walk in the front door. Front door is locked. Okay, maybe he's napping. Knock on the door, nothing. I go to the back door, still no answer. We look inside, try to see what was going on. My sister Nicole says, Dad's on the floor. I was like, what do you mean he's on the floor? She goes, Dad's on the floor, he's not moving. There's a front window on the house. There wasn't a lock on it, so I pushed the window open and got my sister inside. She unlocked the front door, and we looked at our dad. He wasn't breathing, he was blue. At first, we thought he actually had committed suicide. I dialed 911.
911, what's your emergency?
My dad is on the floor of the house. He's all bloody.
Okay, first off, we need you to relax. Is your dad conscious?
Oh, he's passed out. He's on the floor.
Is he breathing?
No, he's not. Nicole, go check on him. He's bleeding. He's bleeding.
Where is your dad bleeding?
I think my dad is dead.
I was scared. I didn't know what was going on. The 911 operator told us we needed to go outside because, of course, she doesn't know what's going on. And within minutes, we had police officers in our driveway.
Veteran homicide detectives Todd Slayman and Robert Caldwell are called to the scene to investigate.
When the 911 call came in, I was actually sitting in my office in the detective bureau, and originally I was told by the dispatcher that there was a possible suicide. And then shortly after that, there was an update. Possibly this was a homicide. So that led us to believe that this is not going to be a standard run-of-the-mill investigation. When we first arrived on the scene, Mr. Reby was laying there on the floor. He was on his side, face down. There was a guitar that was laying there by the body, so you could tell this was not a suicide. He was shot 7 times. He had several bullet wounds. Some of the wounds hit his shoulder, one wound hit his hip, but the wound that really killed him, it hit him directly right in the heart.
This crime stood out. That John Reby was shot this many times in the middle of the daytime, that stood out. It was the violence of it.
When we see someone shot 7 times, this is overkill. Many firearms actually only have a magazine that will hold 6 or 7 rounds. So someone literally emptied a gun into this man. That is not a restrained, tactical murder. That is a rage murder.
John Reby was a 39-year-old single father, taking care of his 2 daughters.
Oh, my dad was the normal, guy, loved football. He was a bowler, he golfed. He was very family-oriented. He loved spending time with us, doing things with my sister and I. He was a great guy. He met my mom at a gas station. And he said, nice truck. And they swapped numbers, and then they dated about 5 years before they got married, and then I was born 3 years later. And my sister 15 months after that. It was more him doing everything for us. My mom wasn't in the picture as much as she should have been. My dad just finally said enough's enough and leave, and I'll raise the kids myself.
John was self-employed as a heating and air conditioning installer. Money was tight, but he did everything he could to provide for his daughters.
My dad loved Christmas. We were supposed to go get a Christmas tree that night. Our house was actually a pretty small house, but every year, my dad always got the biggest, bushiest tree that he could find. He would get up in the morning and cook breakfast, like a big breakfast. Always said breakfast before presents. It was awesome. He loved it. When they told us that he was shot, I was shocked. Like, what do you mean? No, that can't be possible. Who would do it? And, I just wanted to know why somebody would do that to my dad.
To find John Reby's killer, detectives must unravel the last 24 hours of his life, beginning with the crime scene.
We started processing the scene, and we found casings on the floor, gunshot casings. The casings have the caliber of the gun on the back of the casings.
It was a .380 semi-automatic weapon. They're small guns you could just carry in your pocket. So we knew what kind of gun we were looking for at that point in time.
When they scour the house, police don't locate the gun, but they do make some important discoveries.
There was no sign of a struggle. John we're assuming he was playing the guitar. He was probably sitting. So John may have not known it was coming, and there was no signs of any forced entry. So we believe whoever shot John Reby may have known.
At the scene, the blood that was on the body was not dry, and his body was still somewhat limber. The flesh was still soft. That led us to believe the crime was fairly recent. It definitely happened in the last couple hours.
Detectives talked to John's daughters, hoping to pin down his final movements in the hours before his murder.
That day, my sister and I, we got up for school, and the normal brush your teeth, eat. Dad's saying, grab your backpack, don't miss the bus. He told us, I'm going to work. I should be home when you guys get home. We said, okay, have a good day.
After school let out, they got on the bus and were dropped off near their house at approximately 3:15 p.m. that day.
At 3:22, 7 minutes later, the 911 call comes in from Jamie and Nicole finding their dad dead, shot 7 times. We're looking back and putting the whole timeline together.
From John's daughter's information and the state of the body at the crime scene, detectives believe John was killed between 8 a.m. when the girls left for school and 3:21 p.m. when they found him dead on the floor.
The detectives wanted to know, do you have any clue what your dad did today? I'm like, no, I was at school. He said he was going to work. I'm not sure if he did.
Needing to pin down John's movements that day, investigators turned to his friend, Eric Babas, who sometimes assisted him at work.
Eric Babos was the handyman for John Reby, in the jobs that he did for the air conditioning and heating company. Eric and John went to high school together, so they were longtime friends.
Eric Babas was low-key. He was wanting to give us information. He wanted to help us.
But Eric tells detectives he didn't see or talk to John the day of the murder.
Eric advised us December the 15th. John was not working, and he was taking that day off. And Eric was working at his brother's house, which is about 3.5, 4 miles away from John Reby's house. He advised us he'd been there all day. With
no leads from Eric, detectives turn their attention to John's estranged wife, Lisa.
An ex-wife, an ex-husband, an estranged spouse. This is someone who, in most circumstances, needs to be excluded as being a suspect and as a person of interest almost by default. You need to look at what were the dynamics of this relationship. What were any strains or stresses on the relationship?
What we heard from the girls is that, they just didn't get along. They were fighting all the time.
My mom was around for birthdays and Christmases and holidays. They kept in touch because, we're her kids, but there's a lot of fighting.
Maybe there was some sort of vendetta or personal argument that had evolved to a certain level where she got angry and perpetrated violence that erupted in this horrible killing.
Hours after John Reby is found dead, police question his estranged wife, Lisa.
Lisa was very upset. She was emotionally distraught, seeing her daughters in that state of being so upset. She was visibly shaken.
Some suspects will go too far, will go over the top. Excessive grief, excessive theatricality. And it can have a number of motives behind it. But everyone deals with grief differently. So without knowing what that person's baseline responses to trauma and what their triggers are, you always need to dig deeper.
To find out whether Lisa could have killed John, investigators need to establish motive and whether she had the opportunity.
Maybe there was some kind of domestic issue between the two of them. We're looking to find out where was she that day, what was she doing that day? Was she the last person to see John?
Lisa said that she last talked to John around 11:46 that morning.
With this new piece of information, detectives rework the timeline for the hours before John's murder.
A phone call can help build a victim's timeline, much like any device-related activity. It leaves a trail. It provides a definitive place where they are last seen and heard from. And the contents of that communication can also be very important.
They had talked about going out, possibly next night getting some Christmas gifts for the girls. She said that there was no duress, no anger.
Detectives look into Lisa's story and work to verify her alibi.
Lisa was a receptionist, and Lisa said that she was at work that day.
There was a couple witnesses there that had said, yep, she was there at the time frame that we were looking at.
And when the girls called her and told her what was going on, she left early and went right over to John's house.
With Lisa at work all day, detectives determined she couldn't be involved in John's murder, and she's no longer considered a suspect.
They were separated, but Lisa would describe John as a good father. He took care of the girls. You come into a lot of homes where the common denominator is the kids. I think John and Lisa had that type of relationship.
Lisa then offers up a piece of information that sheds new light on the investigation.
Well, in the meantime, she had checked her phone messages, and she had realized that John had left her 2 voice messages just, a minute before 3 o'clock that day. And she played both those messages for us.
John Reby had called his ex-wife on the day of the murder and left a message asking her if she could go to the heating and air conditioning business in Toledo and pick up a check that was waiting for him for a project that he had done earlier in the week.
And then within a minute and a half, he called right back and says, hey, Lisa, someone is waiting for his money. I need you to go pick up this check.
There was a level of urgency to a second phone call.
Lisa, hurry up. Call me
His
back.
voice was definitely, higher pitched. It was more, hey, Lisa, why haven't you called me back? I need you. I'll explain it to you. But I need you to call me back. I got someone here waiting. So, yeah, there was definitely a different tone.
This was before cell phones really had taken off, so a lot of this was landlines, and you knew exactly where the person was. John had called her from his house at that time.
These phone calls are a significant development in the case and further narrow down the timeline.
From the phone calls, we know that John was alive at 2:58. We know that John was alive at 2:59. We know John was found dead at 3:21. So whoever shot and killed John, it was in that timeline. Now we have a 22-minute time frame that we're dealing with.
But it's what detectives hear next that turns the case on its head.
At the 2:59 phone call, you could hear something in the background. You could hear a second male's voice. That's when you can hear John say, I got someone here.
So we know he's in the house with someone, and that someone is probably the person that killed John, because 20 minutes from that message, he's found dead by his 2 daughters.
Detectives now believe if they can identify the background voice on the phone message, they'll find their killer.
At that particular time, I was involved with an FBI task force in Northwest Ohio, and we had access to Quantico, Virginia, through our office. So we sent the tapes to Quantico to try to get them enhanced so they can identify who's in the background.
The FBI had voice analysis that the FBI was unable to determine who that person was.
Getting no more information about the background voice, detectives asked Lisa, John's ex, about his enemies.
Lisa advises that the only person John had arguments with was Chuck from the heating and air conditioning company that John had subcontracted for. Chuck owed John some money for completing the job. John was very upset. Maybe an argument took place, maybe there was disagreement took place, so Chuck became a person of interest at that time.
He did owe my dad money from just previous jobs. I didn't know if there was like something going on with them.
Chuck is the owner of an HVAC company located just a few miles from John's home. With suspicion starting to swirl around him, detectives pay a visit to Chuck's business.
He was the guy that was in charge, very confident of himself, and he definitely wanted things done his way.
When police ask about his relationship with John, Chuck admits to owing him $500.
Chuck dealt with subcontractors, and he had learned that you don't pay your subcontractors until the job's done, or else they wouldn't complete the project. He thought not only John, but with all other subcontractors, if you prepaid them, they wouldn't get the job done.
But Chuck said that John had completed the job a week before, and he actually had a check waiting for him.
Chuck tells detectives about a series of phone calls he had with John, all near the time of John's death.
The first phone call, I believe, was at 3:03, and John wanted to know if he could come send someone else to pick the checks up. And Chuck said, no, you have to come down and get the checks. There was another phone call at 3:05. John was saying, hey, can I send someone else down? No, you can't. You have to come down and get the check.
8 minutes later, the phone rang again.
The next phone call, there were 2 voices on the phone. And the second voice says, hey, John owes me money, it's $150, so I'm gonna come down and get the check. That call was at 3:13, and that's the one where Chuck said to the guy, hey, I told you before, I'm not changing my mind. John has to come down and get the check. The phone went dead. He actually hung up on him.
Chuck tells detectives he didn't recognize the other person on the phone. He shares his company's phone records to prove he's telling the truth.
Chuck said he was in his office that day. he was with his employee. The phone records tell us that they had multiple phone calls, so we knew they were at their business.
With the company's phone records and Chuck's statements clearing him from the murder, Detectives Caldwell and Slayman now look at the implications of his story.
We narrowed down the time frame from the phone calls. So now we got an 8-minute time frame that we're dealing with.
The timeline in this case is remarkably tight. We have a series of telephone calls, and then minutes later, his 2 daughters coming home. You can't help but question whether his daughters actually crossed paths with the killer. And if they were just a couple of minutes earlier, if they too would have been victims themselves.
He was shot minutes before he walked in the door, which is scary. What if the bus had gone a different route that day and we get dropped off first instead of last? We could have been there, walking in the door. Like, what would have happened if we were there?
Working with a timeline of just 8 minutes, from 3:13 to 3:21 p.m., detectives need to uncover the identity of the man with John, the afternoon he was murdered.
What are the odds that somebody else gained access to the home and killed him in that same length of time and was still able to escape? It really leaves only one possibility, and that's the other man that was on the phone at 3:13.
It was an incredibly tight timeline at this point, and now it's just a matter of trying to figure out who that person that was in the house.
As business owner Chuck is wrapping up his interview, he drops a bombshell, telling police that at 4:06 p.m., he received a final call.
Chuck says it's the same person. So the same guy calls again and says, hey, John's in the hospital. I need to come down and get the check. And that's when Chuck said, when John's out of the hospital, you can come get it. Not that Chuck believed him.
That last phone call came in after John was already found dead. Chuck told us that was the same guy that was connected with those other calls from John Reby's house. So we believe that last phone call came from the person that killed John.
As police wait for a trace on the phone call, they circle back to the crime scene, looking for any new clues.
The girls never seen anybody leaving as they were coming home. We talked to the bus driver, and the bus driver didn't remember seeing anybody leaving the scene.
Where the house was, it was a very busy road. We combed the neighborhood, and no one saw or heard anything.
With no new witnesses or leads, the investigation hits a wall.
You get a little setback. It'd be much easier in the case if, you know, neighbor 2 doors down would have said, hey, I saw this guy running out of the house. You know, that would have been huge. But there was nothing. It was extremely difficult. It was extremely difficult.
Then they get an unexpected break.
I got a phone call from Eric Babbis. He advised me that he might have some information that would assist in our investigation.
Eric tells police he had been at a party at John's house the Friday before his murder, when a man came in he didn't recognize.
He told us that there was a guy that came in there and he was delivering drugs and said that his name was JR. And then when he was leaving, JR said, you know, hey, what are you looking at? You're staring at me. And he pulled out a gun and he pointed it at John and Eric and threatened them.
John Reby was a dedicated father. He took care of his daughters. But John Reby also liked to party. He liked the nightlife. He drank. He used drugs on occasion.
We got John's phone to see who he had talked to the day of the 15th. When we were looking at phone records, we could see that John had called JR.
Detectives now zero in on a new suspect in John's murder, local drug dealer, JR.
Sylvania Township police detectives, when they were told that JR was a drug dealer, they thought that perhaps he had something to do with the crime. And maybe John Reby owed him money for the drugs.
Police ask John's friend Eric to come down to the station again, hoping he can help identify JR.
Eric described him as a big guy. He was imposing, kind of short-cropped hair, well-built, and he brandished a gun, but he didn't recognize him.
When detectives run the name JR through the database, they discover his real name is Valen Rogers, and he's been arrested for an unrelated crime.
So myself and Sergeant Colwell, we went down to Lucas County Sheriff's Department and we did an interview with him in a back conference room. And we actually sat and talked with Valen Rogers about John Reby. Valen Rogers was a big guy. He took care of himself. He obviously worked out.
When detectives question Valen about the day of John's murder, he says he was visiting a friend 11 miles away.
According to Valen, the last time he spoke with John was on the 10th. That was the last time he said he's seen him alive. The day of the homicide, John was trying to score some dope, and it called Valen Rogers, but they never connected.
From the phone records, you could see where it went to voicemail, so we knew that that information that Valen Rogers was giving us was true.
Valen also denies waving a gun around at John's party.
Valen says, I was at the party, I scored. I scored some dope for John, I was in and out. He said he liked John Reby. He said he always had the money, it was a simple transaction. Why would I kill him?
Detectives track down friends of Valen Rogers, and they confirm they were with him in another town until 4 p.m. on the day John was murdered. Detectives also look closer at Rogers' activities the night of the party.
There was another person that Eric said was at the party, so we called him up and basically said, hey, can you come in and talk to us for a little bit? We asked him, did some guy come there and deliver drugs? He said, oh yeah, some guy came, he brought some drugs, and asked him, did he pull out a gun and threaten you guys? And he said, no, there was no guy with a gun. So at that point, we knew that the story that Eric Babbis came to tell us that night was a complete lie.
Now investigators turn their attention to John's longtime friend, Eric Babbis, and discover he's got a criminal past.
He had a drug and alcohol problem. He had a DUI arrest. He had a temper problem. He had domestic violences. His wife had moved out on him. His kid wasn't staying with him anymore. He was a guy that was, kind of down and out.
My dad helped him out a lot. Like, he had a kid younger than us, and my dad helped him. Like, hey, I know you don't have any work right now. You can help me out, and I'll pay you to, grab my tools, help me carry things.
The more detectives learn about Eric, the more red flags they find.
The girls thought Eric was not a good influence on their dad. He partied too much, and they never liked him. They thought he acted strange around them.
He was kind of weird, but not anything where I thought he would ever do anything like this. Like, shoot my dad.
Investigators have zeroed in on John Reby's longtime friend, Eric Babbis, as their prime suspect in his murder.
Eric's alibi was that he was renovating his brother's house. It was on West Acre, which is about, 3.5, 4 miles from the crime scene. And he said he was dropped off by his father around 10-ish and picked up by his brother around 4:30 that afternoon, and he had never left the house.
Detectives Caldwell and Slayman reach out to Eric's family, asking if they can confirm the handyman's alibi.
They were saying, yeah, we dropped him off and picked him up. But during the time frame of the murder, he's unaccounted for.
Eric Babos was at the house alone the whole day, and so he couldn't get anyone to substantiate the alibi that he was there. He could have at any time gotten a ride from somebody else, ridden his bike, or walked to John Reby's house.
Through John's phone records, detectives catch Eric in another lie.
Eric said that he had last spoken with John the day before the homicide, and he had not been there that day, he had not talked to John that day. But from the phone records, that's a lie. He spoke to John the day of the homicide. He spoke to him in the morning, around 8 in the morning. Then he called him around 11-ish.
Investigators confront Eric with this information, and his story changes.
He admitted to us that he did talk to John that morning, and he said he wanted to know if they were going to go work that day. Eric said John told him, I'm going to have some coffee. I'm going to, see what's going on. I don't know if I'm working today or not. And then Eric said, we got to get paid. And John said, yeah, I'll get with you later on it. So we knew they were talking to each other on the phone.
Once you start lying to investigators, they are going to lay hard on that person and start to look at everything they've said, and they're going to keep digging.
Suspicion about Eric keeps growing as Jamie remembers something unusual that happened the day of her father's murder.
Eric called my house and actually asked for my dad, and I said, well, no, my dad can't come to the phone right now, something's going on. And he's saying, I want my money, I want my money. It's $150. Like, why? All of a sudden you're calling and asking for money?
Now you know what the motive could be about the shooting that has to do with this check or this money.
Eric said he called because he wanted to get the $150 because he promised his son that he was going to take him Christmas shopping. So he wanted that money right away.
We know that John called Lisa before 3 o'clock that day and left her a voice message and said there was a guy waiting there and he's waiting to get his money. Now we find out Eric wanted to get his money. So Eric Babbitt actually kind of gave us his motive.
Who else had motive? Who else knew about the $150? John knew about it and Eric knew about it. Who profited from it? Eric. Eric's got something to cover up. He's not being forthcoming. It's that standoffish attitude where, I'm slouched in my chair. He was kind of cold. His only alibi is I wasn't there. It wasn't me.
Having identified a motive, detectives take a closer look at Eric's movements on the day John was killed.
We went to his brother's house where he was supposed to be working that day to see if there was work going on, those kind of things. It was kind of unusual because there was a bike in the side yard there. And you could tell by the tracks and the snow and that someone had been riding that bike in the last day. I actually had my son, who was 11 years old at the time, and I had him ride a bicycle from Eric's brother's house to John Reby's house and timed him. And there's 2 or 3 different ways you could go to do it, and my son was able to do it in about 20, 25 minutes. So we knew Eric could do it easily there and back.
John was killed in between 3:13 and 3:21 in the afternoon, and Eric Babbis's alibi for that time frame isn't holding up.
He puts himself at this house doing work. He said he was going out back and forth, taking stuff out to the trash can. We checked both the neighbors that were next to this house, and I said, did you ever see Eric Babbis there? And these people knew Eric, because he had actually lived in that house for a while. And they said, no, we never saw Eric that day.
With Eric in their crosshairs, detectives get a search warrant for his home and phone, looking for evidence that connects him to John's murder.
Well, he's searching for anything, a gun or clothing items with some blood stains or something. Maybe it was on a clothes, maybe unaccounted for money, maybe a check stub, or anything that can link to the crime.
But investigators aren't able to locate the gun that killed John Reby, or any items that yield physical evidence.
It would be pretty rare or stupid of someone to shoot somebody 7 times and then hold on to that gun. That gun, I'm sure, is in a river somewhere.
I'm still thinking it's not real. Like, why is this happening? Waiting for answers, waiting for what really happened. It's pretty much twisted our whole world around. It's horrible.
While detectives have established that Eric had the motive and opportunity to kill John, they don't have physical evidence tying him to the murder. They revisit the timeline and learn that at 4:15 p.m., Eric's brother took him to the bank and hardware store after picking him up that day.
There was a video camera at the bank, and there was a video camera at the department store he was in.
The police detectives were able to determine what Eric Babos was wearing that day through video that was taken.
Detectives get another search warrant, this one specifically for the clothing Eric was wearing on December 15th, the day of the crime.
We sent that shirt that he was wearing to the lab, and that came back with gunshot residue on that.
So you have gunshot residue on a garment, and you don't have a gun. Well, gunshot residue is actually very important. It's pointing you at least in the right direction.
It was on the left sleeve, which made sense because the way the gun would reject, it would probably spray his left sleeve. I mean, this was an investigator's dream.
After discovering physical evidence linking Eric to the murder of John Reby, detectives Caldwell and Slayman set a trap for their prime suspect.
We asked Eric Babbis, would there be a reason, you would have something on that shirt? Do you sport shoot or, do you skeet shoot? Are you a hunter or something like that? No, I don't do anything. I don't own any guns. He locked himself into that.
Investigators are certain Eric is their killer, but they still don't have enough evidence to make an arrest.
You don't always have an offender on video pulling the trigger. You don't always have DNA. Cases are built a brick at a time, and when you don't have enough circumstantial evidence, that's when you may not get convictions.
Detective Slayman and Caldwell fear Eric might get away with murder. Then they get the break they've been waiting for.
Chuck had advised us that there was that last phone call where someone was trying to get paid, trying to get the money. So when we got Eric's phone records for December the 15th, we saw that that phone call actually came from Eric Babbis' cell phone. He called and asked for the money again. So that last phone call that after John was already found dead came from Eric's phone.
That was huge. That was a huge significant break in the case because now we have Eric Babbis that's been identified by Chuck. He said, that's the same person who said, I want to come down and get the check. There's only one person that was connected to that, John's helper, Eric Babbis.
On December 29, 2004, just 4 days after Christmas, detectives arrest Eric Babbis for John Reby's murder.
We went and knocked at the door, and I remember he came down, walked down the steps and sat on the steps. And we told him we have an arrest for aggravated murder. And he just got up and put his hands behind his back. And that 100% reinforced we had the right guy. It was Eric Babbis.
Detectives are now able to reconstruct the final 24 hours of John's life.
The morning of the homicide, John Reby gets his kids off to school. Around 8 o'clock, he gets them off to the bus and that. And he spoke to Lisa around 11:46 that morning. John stays in, and he's got that urge to party a little bit. So John called Valen Rogers, but they never connected. 2 o'clock, Eric, who's been dropped off at his brother's house on West Acre, decides, I'm gonna go over there, I'm gonna confront John because I want my money. During that time, before 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Eric gets inside the house and confronts John. Hey, I need this 150 bucks. We did a job for you. I worked for you. I want my money.
John at that time tried to appease him and reached out to the ex-wife, Lisa, to see if she would go get the money. And he was unable to make contact with her. At that point in time, John called Chuck to see if it would be okay if his helper, Eric, could just go pick up the money, and then he was advised that John had to sign off on the check. Eric didn't believe that, so John called back again, and this time he actually handed the phone to Eric Babbis, and he asked Chuck to explain to him why he couldn't come get the money himself.
We think right in that time, right around 3:13, either John is deceased or John's going to be dead. Because at 3:21, Jamie and Nicole find their dad dead. There's a fourth phone call at 4:06 where Chuck from the heating and air conditioning place picks up, and it's Eric Babbis saying, hey, I'm John's helper. John owes me money. Can I come get the checkup? No, John has to come. There's absolutely no doubt in that case that Eric Babbis shot John Reby 7 times, over $150.
I think money was really just the rationalization. It was about ego and proving a point. No one was going to deny him that amount of money, whether it was $150 or $150,000. And at the end of the day, what we're dealing with here is actually someone with sociopathic tendencies who could rationalize in their twisted mind that that was a logical outcome.
Eric's known us since we were born. So it's not like he didn't know us. We had enough interaction with him. It wasn't anything like this random guy, random person who's upset about something, who killed my dad. No, I'll never forgive him. I'll always be angry.
On August 5th, 2005, a jury finds Eric Babbis guilty of the murder of John Reby and sentence him to life in prison.
My dad and Eric had been friends since high school. Like, how could you do that to somebody you've known most of your life? And my dad helped him out a lot. So, like, why? Do you not have a heart?
The timeline was everything. I can't remember in my 38 years a case having such a close timeline. You almost never get something like that. Everything played out. You could match the crime to the time, to the phone calls, the 911 calls. It all fit together very tightly. It's good when we find that little piece of evidence, that little clue that you can climb the ladder and solve a case and bring closure. Everybody wants to know what happened. So you're serving the community, you're serving people, you're helping people.
This case is one of tragedy. It's Christmas time. You have a father murdered, leaving 2 daughters fatherless. A family was destroyed, reduced to ruins. Very, very difficult.
My dad was a great dad. He's a hard worker. But I miss his goofiness and his singing in the car. That's what I miss the most. It's hard knowing my kids won't know him. And my son actually asks about him because he sees pictures of him. And it's hard. And he's like, who's that? Oh, that's Grandpa. Where's Grandpa? It's hard to explain. And Christmas is hard, but we just try to make the best of it. I'll still always remember my dad.
I can't imagine being that age and finding my father shot and killed. No matter how bad the circumstances are, people want to know the truth. And I think we served them well. They have closure, they can put it to bed, they can go on with their lives.